Yeah. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good forever, wherever you are. So, we last class, I think we stopped. So we started with something called array and objects, right?
Yes.
And so we couldn't maybe cover it that much due to time in last class. So in today's class, we're going to run over it and look through some operations we can perform on the arrays and objects. And so from next class, it's going to be really more of hands-on in class. And Shego and I think we were discussing at some point, like to make it really more interesting rather than just you coming to class, we are showing you what to do, and that is the end of it, except people that are actually practicing the assignments that they need to do. So we are thinking of, in most of the class, it's going to be more of a, even in class and after class anyway, it's going to be more of peer programming now, whereby we divide it into group of maybe two, and we give you some challenges to do, and you and your group partner, you work on those challenges. Maybe at the end of the day, we come together, we look at your code, and we look out, we try to look at how to, like, if you're having any challenges, we try to fix those challenges and also fix those solutions. So that's the approach we are thinking of right now, which we believe it's going to be one of the best way for everyone to get the best out of this class. And it's not only going to be in class alone. It's also going to be maybe after class, we can also meet up with your group partner or your group member and try to like do stuff together, because the only way you can keep getting better is if you keep practicing. So, but let's see how that is going to turn out anyway. So, but not to waste more, like right now I can see we've wasted around 60 minutes on talking about other stuff. So I think we can maybe start at this point. So last class, I think we are trying to like explain what arrays is and what object is in JavaScript. And if I remember, I mentioned that array data type, object data type, they are also in other programming language. For example, in Python, array is otherwise known as list in Python. In Java, I think it's the arrays. In Python, object is known as dictionary, if I'm right. Yeah, I think dictionary. And so, but the main point is they only give them different names. They do the same thing in any of the programming languages you're talking about. And once you understand it here, you can easily try to like adapt the same approach to work on them in any other programming language. And if you remember at the first of this class, one of the things we promised was like, or whatever you learn in this class, you can easily sit down with any other programming language and be able to like find your way around it. Because we are not just teaching JavaScript, we are trying to like teach the whole concept of this programming, so that if you pick another programming language, you can easily be familiar. For example, now you know what strings are, now you know what numbers are, now you know what booleans are. So all these data type, they are also in another programming language. The only thing might be, it might be called different names, or they are still being called the same name. So now maybe enough of those explanations. So I can start with the explanation of what arrays are, and show you different types of operations we can perform array. We have a lot of operations or a lot of methods that comes with arrays, and we can also come up with our own method and try to like work on array. But we have some existing ones, which if time permits, I can show you like how to get more methods you can use to like perform operations on array. So first thing is, what is array? So array is of course is a data type in JavaScript. And not just data type, but is a type of data type that we can use. A type of data type that we can use to store list of values. So let's try to like both this part. So array is more like we use them to store list of values. And those values could be what? They could be similar values or different values. So I know this might be a little bit abstract at the moment. So let's try to like take one step backward to this scenario we promised to use to explain
Sorry,
any.
could you zoom the screen a little?
Sorry,
Could you zoom the screen a little more?
what about now?
Back.
So okay, so I believe we all remember this scenario we promised to keep using to explain any topic or any concepts we are dealing with in this class. It's still the same scenario, which is like we have a school, and in that school we have 3 classes, and one of the classes is class 1, the second one is class 2, and class 3. And in each class we have students, and for each class, they will be taking different courses and they will have different teachers, right? So now coming back to arrays with the concept of our class, where do we have the arrays again? So now coming back to these, coming back to our class, coming back to the scenario of this class now, let's say we want to store the name, and maybe I should also explain this. How do we declare and initialize arrays in JavaScript? It still boils down to using this same concept of keywords, variable name, and value. So for example, now back to my explanation of, let's say in class 1, we have 5 students, right? And name of each student are, remember they're in strings, right? Can you give me maybe like 5 different names? And one of the names we've been using in our class is Comfort. Another one is, I remember in last class we used Bolaji. And so which other name do you want to give me?
Unit.
So, but for example, let's assume like we are not even putting them in string at this point. Yeah. Then Janet, and which other name?
Shegun.
And which other name?
Dame.
Okay, Dami. So now we have 5 students in this class. So let's say, and if you will agree with me, these are like values, right? And we can consider them to be like a list of names, right? And it's not just ordinary list of names. They are list of names of students that are what? In class 1.
Class 1.
And now let's take a look at the bigger picture of this thing now. At this point, and if you remember previously, the way we used to store it before is like we write student 1, name, blah, blah, blah. We set it equals to that, right? The first name, second name, students. Just to like, let me short it, student 2 name. We set it student 3 name. Come to think of it, if we, let's say the school scale up at some point and they now have like 1,000 students. So are we going to be writing student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, student 5, student 6, student 7, like 1,000? Each one like that, it's going to take a lot of time and it doesn't really maybe efficient enough, right? And that's one part where arrays comes in. Array could give you the leverage of storing all those students together as a list instead of separating them one by one. So, and the big picture here is with what we have before, if we also try to like consider the memory, maybe I can explain the part of the memory shortly. I remember we have one student 1, 3, 4, 5 to like student 1,000 now. And where array comes in is array could give us the leverage of putting them together as a list, which even comparing to memory, we are going to see like the advantage of it now. So, but let's look at how to declare it first in JavaScript. Remember the keyword is going to be let, right? Or it could be const, it could be var. Then the variable name we want to call it, you can call it name of, remember this is not going to be caps, it's going to be name of our class 1 students. And it's going to take the value of what? All these values. But they won't just take the values of all these values, and to denote that this is going to be a list or an array, we put them in this type of brackets. And with this, you already created an array. The only thing there is we need to specify the type of, with this, you already created this array, but we only need to specify the type of data type all these names are. You know, by default, you can't just write them as comfort. We need to specify the type, and which are what? They are strings, right? Which means we need to
Yes.
do what? Put quotes there. This is going to be comfort, and this is going to be going again. This is going to be what is the second name? Bolaji.
Bolaji.
And this is going to be what now?
Janet.
Janet. And this is going to be
Shegun.
Shegun. This will be Dami, right? Dami.
Yeah.
With this, we just created an array. And now to see the big picture, to see like one of the advantages arrays has as a list is, let's try to consider this same thing and see how it's going to be saved in the memory. So let's say we have our memory just like this also. And this is going to be the cell. And this is going to be...
Hold it.
Okay.
Before you create the memory,
Mm-hmm.
what about the way it is now? We have put them in string.
Mm-hmm.
If we put, instead of putting each one of them in string,
Mm-hmm.
it's already in the braces.
Mm-hmm.
And then we now put column starting with comfort. To separate all the names with the comma, and then the last name there is Dami, and close the quote. What will happen?
You mean something like this?
Yes.
So what is going to happen is, you remember we said strings, they will be in what? Like this, right?
Quote. Yes.
Quote.
So if you keep adding more, if you put comma, you keep adding more, you keep adding more, you add more. So the point here is going to see them as what? A single string.
Okay.
Do you get it now? It's more or less like you are just trying to store dummy. It's more like, let's say you are trying to write a statement and you're trying to write, my name is dummy, comma,
Okay.
I am a male, comma. Do you get it now?
Mm.
So it's going to see it like as a single string, not as different strings, not as different values of strings, of type string. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So now,
okay, that's one.
Okay.
That is one.
Okay.
And if we now make it if we make it a single quote, dummy, a single quote of dummy, you get it? Or no, let me do another one. Let's say we do a quote, my name, we do a quote, Janet, comma, another quote, a single quote,
okay,
is my, we close the quote, then space, name, or no space, name.
It's type name, right?
Yes, and then you put a double quote. So what does this mean?
You remember I tried with a single quote, right? And
this is the first one is a double quote too.
Okay, double quote, okay, good.
Yes.
So what we can do is, let's go to our console and try it out and see what we're going to get. You get? So let's see, now we go again. And that's the reason why I was trying to have the second screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's try it. You said double quotes.
Yeah. Janet, yeah.
Without comma, right?
You can put comma, you can, it depends, just Janet.
And single quotes.
Yeah,
my name, right?
No.
Oh, sorry?
You can you can close the single quote.
Is Janet, single quote, then name and double quote, yeah.
Yes.
So let's try something again. Let's say name, or let's say word, or let's say phrase equals so if we do phrase now, So do you get what you are getting now? Do you see the big picture of the result you are getting now?
Yeah.
So it's assuming the whole word is a string. I'm now also considering this one, like this, it's more like you are doing double string, right? Like this. Then you write JNet and you put something like, dot, you put something like comma. Do you get? So you've seen all these things, all these symbols as what? As letters itself.
Okay.
Do you get now? So provided this external code.
Because this is part of the assignment you gave us.
It's part of the assignment, right?
Yeah, to create a single quote.
And a double quote. Yeah.
Yes.
So but the point here is, provided you open the first string and you close that second string, you close that first string, anything inside it is going to consider it to be what? As part of the values of that string.
Okay.
I don't know if the explanation makes sense now.
Okay. So in this case, he's seeing this as just one string.
He's seeing it as JNet, comma, or single quote is Jane, comma, is single quote close name. Do you get now? It's seeing it as a single value, like it's seeing it as this. You can see what I just highlighted now.
Yes.
So it's seeing it as this.
Okay.
But
so
it's of type string.
In answering your assignment, what would they have been?
Sorry?
In answering the assignment you gave us, what would this have been?
So let me see the assignment again. Create a single string that contains both single quotes and double quotes. It's not going to affect anything. The point is just to test, to see the output you are going to get and really understand the output you are getting. Do you get now?
Because that just is a string that contains single and double quotes.
So it's just for you to understand what you are getting out. And though because we haven't really been diving deep into all these things, by now we should be checking out some built-in built-in method we can play around with, or built-in built-in method. So if you do of type, let's say, this is a string. Okay, let me do something. Let me do a quick something. Let's say let name equals to dummy, right? Dummy, damo is the same thing. Then I do type of I think it should be like this anyway, if I'm right. Then I do name. Yeah, you can see. So this type of method, we use it to get the type of data type. Do you get now? So I just call, though we haven't touched what method is now, because we haven't touched anything function. So this thing might be a little bit like string, like, okay, what is this one again? Yeah, but all these ones are built in already, like you can just make use of them, but we are still coming back to what method is. So we need to be fast with this class as well anyway. Okay. So this method is like a function, or is like something we can use to determine the type of our data type that stuff is. Remember, I declare a variable called name, right? Then I assign it a value of dummy. And that dummy is what? Of type what? String. Right? If I want to know the type of, let's assume maybe this thing wasn't that obvious to me. Like, let's say someone sent this code to me, and I want to check this type of is like a very important method you need to know if you're writing code, because that way you can use to check the type of value you are getting and know the type of operations you're going to perform. So with this type of method, you can quickly use it to check the type of the data type that value is. You can see I pass this value, I assign this value, I assign it to this name, or this variable name dummy I declared. Then I only have to call this type of on that variable name. Then it told me what is of what? String. Let's try another one.
But what if you didn't put it in bracket? Will it still answer?
You mean like this?
If you did not put name in bracket, if you had only said type of name and you did not put it in bracket, will it still give you string?
You mean I should just do type of name like this, right?
Yeah, no string, no bracket.
So the way these methods work is you have to put bracket there because you haven't touched function. Okay. That's why this bracket is might be a little bit not straightforward right now. You get so it's its own way of calling the method or calling the function anyway, or its method function, but don't worry about the name function sometimes. But if we get there, you understand what do we mean by function and what do we mean by method. You get.
Okay.
So
another question I want to ask is, okay.
Yeah, you can ask a question.
You told us that in array, we separate them with comma.
Yeah.
We separate the values with comma.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've seen now is that because our value is string, you of course put them in double quote. You put them in quote. So like I want to know, does it depend on the type of value you are writing? Then you know whether to put it in comma or in quote.
So to answer your question, we are going to go back to that example in array, and I'm going to do one more, then you see the big picture of it. So one good thing about array, which I haven't mentioned, or I should have mentioned, is it can store any other type of data. It can store number, it can store string, it can store Boolean, it can store undefined. You get, and it can store them, it can store them together. You can store them separately, you can store them together. We are going to see it. You're going to understand what I'm talking about. But one thing I also want to point out here before I'm going to leave console back to the notice, you can see I did type of, and I put a number there, right?
Yes.
And if I press enter now, what do you think we are going to get?
Number.
Exactly.
Number.
So if I put this number in quotes, what do you think we are going to get?
String.
So if I do type of and I write true, what do you think I'm going to get?
Boolean.
Exactly. Do you get the picture now? Let's try something. Type of undefined. Let's see what you're going to get.
Undefined.
Do you get it? Do you see the big picture now?
Yeah.
So this type of it's a very great thing to know. But right now you might not find it helpful. But as time goes on, it's very good to sometimes it helps in debugging your code to really know the value you're getting of and do some manipulation or do some operations on whatever code you're writing. But do you see the big picture now?
Yeah.
So now moving forward, now coming back to something I was trying to explain the other time. Let's say, what are we trying to explain? So I was trying to point to how this is going to store in memory, and you see the advantage of using arrays when it comes to list. When it comes to you're trying to put something together as a list compared to separately. So we are going to try something now. So this is going to be like our placeholder or our variable name. Right?
Yes.
So remember, we have these arrays. We declare this array first and we give it name of what? Name of class of one student, of class 1 student. Then we store it in our memory and we define it with a value of what? Then the value is going to be like this. Before, compare, you can see this one only stores in a slot, in a cell in the memory, right? It the array didn't spread all these values into different cells compared to if you are declaring it using one variable type, using one declaring them using string individual, not arrays at this point. Let's say, for example, let's go up. I think we've done something like that before. You can see this one. When we declare this one, you can see it save them individually in what? In the memory. Do you see the difference now?
Yeah, because we declared them individually.
Yeah, exactly. And if you remember, all these students, they are what? We consider them to be what? Student in class 1, right? And you can see when we consider student in class 1, this was stored in the memory individual. But with array, we can put them together because they are what? Students in class 1. And because we can put them together as a list and take the advantage of what? Storing them together in the memory. Do you see that? Do you see the difference between them right now?
Yes.
So for example, let's say we have this list up to 1,000 now. All those 1,000, they will only be in what? In this cell. Instead of spreading them way down to like 1,000 cells. Do you get the picture now?
Yeah.
Is it like, do you understand it, or it's not that, or it's still a little bit not straightforward at this point?
It is straightforward, but you have not answered our question.
So our question, I'm not coming back to our question now. Let's say, first thing we said was name of students. Now, let's say we want to have age of student now, age of students of name, age of class 1 student, right? And we know that age is going to be what?
Numbers.
Numbers. And if you remember for our last class, we said age of class student in class 1 is going to be 5, which means age of comfort is 5. Age of Dami is going to be what now? Age of Bolaji is going to be 6. Age of Janet is going to be what? 8.
8.
Age of Shegun is going to be what? 5.
5.
And age of Dami is going to be what? 6.
6.
And you can see in this list, what do we have now? We have numbers separated by what?
Commas.
I don't know if this answers your question.
Mm.
Okay, so
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's single or double number. Like
even if it is, let's say Janet is a little bit okay. Let's say Janet is older at this point. Let's now say they bring in one more student now into this class, and that student is what? His name is, who just joined our class? Is anyone on Zoom now? Let's say who else is on Zoom. Can you give me a name from Zoom?
Yeah, Nena.
So let's say Nena. If I didn't spell the name right, please let me know. Is it double N?
Double
like this,
N.
right?
It's okay, it's the same thing.
So let's say Nena now joined our class now, right? Which means we have 6 students. And looking at this whole thing, Nena is much older than everyone. And she's what? 10 years, she's 12 years old. You can see this one is what? Double digits now, not single digits. So the whole point is, it's still the same value of, let's say, let Nena age equals to 12. It's still the same, this same age, that same value of Nena. We are still putting there, only that we are combining them together as what? As a list, which is ours array. Do you get the explanation now?
Yes.
So that's one thing about array.
But when you are writing it, when you want to initialize it, it will be, this name now will start with how do they say, small letter N. Or
it depends on how you write it. If you write the small letter N, then it's going to be small letter N. If you write this capital letter B, it's going to be capital letter B. Anything you write there, if you write all these, okay, let's do something now. Let's play around. Let's go back to our console again. And let me clear, hopefully it works this time. Yeah, so it works here. So let's try something now.
Sorry, I want to learn how you clear, because I tried clearing on console.
So if you're on Google Chrome, there is one something here in Google Chrome. You just click that is going to clear. I don't know why last time clear is not working for me on Google Chrome, but I'm using Mozilla now. I'm using our Safari now. So just do this. This one is also a method or a function to clear. You can see when I type clear, it told me something like function clear. And to call that function, I have to I know this, explaining this function now is going to make things like scatter everything. So I don't really want to explain it.
Don't go.
The only thing is, you remember the way we get log out prompt. You remember when we explained prompt, log, all those stuff. That's how we have that clear also. So I'm only taking advantage of that clear to clear everything on my console. Do you get it now?
Okay. Yeah.
So now let's say we have list of names of class 1 student, right? And we said it's going to equals to first name again, comfort. Maybe I can quickly use this point to also explain the next part we're going to be talking about. Next one is going to be JNet, and next one is JNet is not the next one. Next one is Bolaji. You can see what I did there, right? I set Bolaji to be caps. Then next is Shegun. Then I'm writing Shegun small. Then I'm going to do Dami. I'm going to omit D in Dami and put it as Ami. And the last person was Nena here, right? Nena. So you can see I declare an array now. I press enter. So now the next part we are going to talk about is we have, before I'm going to move to objects, we have, first thing is, remember I said this thing is going to save in memory, right? Let's say, for example, if we want to get this array from memory, what are we going to do? We just have to do what? Can someone tell me what I'm going to do? Let's say I want to get these values from memory.
Yeah, you call the variables.
Variable name, right?
You call the variable name.
Then I'm going to do names of class 1 student. You can see all those values from memory. So now this is going to take us to more stuff we can do with arrays. So now before we are going to explain objects. So in arrays, you can see one thing here was when I press enter, you can see something came up here. It shows in bracket what 6, right? And what that is telling us is like we have 6 values in this array. Do you understand that?
Yes. We have 6 names.
We have 6 names or 6 values. If I do for the age, let's say I go back and I try to run for the age. Let's say I try to run for the age now. If I called age of tired of typing. Let's say if I do it for the age of, you can see what the value is here, right? 5. So for every array we have, for every array you run, we always have something called length. So what I'm trying to say here is the amount of elements inside that array is going to determine the length of it. For example, let's run another one. Let's say empty array. Then I do like this. You can see I'm not passing any value here, right? So if I do enter and I do empty array, what is the value there? What is the length now? 0, which means we don't have any value inside. So, and one of the method that comes with array is called length. So for you to know more about this, so it won't be like maybe I'm just saying something off my head. So let's do something. So this website I'm going to go to now, it's more like if anyone that is writing, maybe any web developer, this is more like their Bible. We have 2 websites anyway, but this is more like their Bible. You can just do array. You can do arrays in JavaScript. If that doesn't come up, then I'm going to show you another thing. Let's say arrays in JavaScript. So this first one is like one of the most go-to websites if you are dealing with any programming language, not only JavaScript. This second one, I know it should be the second one. It's called developer.mozilla.org. It's like for every web developer, it's more like their Bible. Do you get it? So what it's trying to tell us is anything you are looking for about anything, you can get them here. So what I did was I searched arrays in JavaScript, which means I want to know, let's say I want to know more about arrays in JavaScript. Now I want to read more about arrays in JavaScript. Let's go to the first one, W3 schools, and this second one. This second one is going to give you comprehensive list of anything you can know about arrays. For example, you said array object. This object, let's hold this object down for now. But let's cancel this object for now. Let's just assume it's going to say the array, as with arrays in other programming language, enable a storing a collection of multiple items under a single variable name. Is that not what we've been explaining since morning?
Yeah.
And as a member for performing common arrays operation, which is the part we are coming to right now. So you can store collections of items together, which as a list. And on that list, you can now perform different operations on them, which is the part I was trying to explain right now. The only thing I'm trying to show you is, I'm just trying to show you resources whereby you can go to and read a lot about anything. So for example, now, You remember I mentioned something the other time, like I mentioned something here, like for this array, for each, the numbers of elements inside of it determines the length of it. Let's say someone gave us an array, someone gave us this array. I'm going to declare this array again. Let's say someone gave us this array, because I've declared it before anyway. Okay, so let's say someone gave us this array and we don't know the length. Because we click enter now, we managed to know the length of it because we saw this. Let's assume you are working with some very big data. For example, let's say Facebook now. Let's say you are working as a software developer or a software developer at Facebook. All those posts you did on Facebook, all those comments you do on Facebook, all those any interaction you did on Facebook, they are storing all those data somewhere. They store them either as collections of array or collection of objects inside an array. They store them as all those data types you are seeing right now, all these things. They store them as this, either to be collection of objects, which we are coming back to, and they put them inside the arrays. That's how they come. That's the format they come. That's the format you see them. So, but the big thing there is you have a very big numbers of array, and there is no way for you to run it at first to know the length of that numbers of elements present in that array. Then the next question might be, if I don't know the length of this array, how can I know this length of this array? Then there comes then the next question will be, how can you know the length of the element inside that array? So one thing you can do is you can go to your Google and search how to determine. I'm just trying to show you something, how to determine the length of an array in JavaScript. So the point here is, if you want to do anything, you can always go to Google and put it there. Okay, how do I do this in JavaScript? So if I want to do this much better, I'm just going to press search. You see the first website I told you about the other time, W3 Schools. You can see it's coming out for us. You see the second one. Then the next one I'm supposed to be seeing is Stack Overflow. And this Stack Overflow will also coming back there. So this Stack Overflow is more like a website where people post questions of, for example, if you are trying to write a code now, you are getting some errors or you don't seem to understand anything. It's more like a question and answer website about program related, about coding related. So you go there, you ask, you post it there, and so let's try something out now. Let's try to open this. You remember what you're trying to check, how to determine the length of an array. Let's say I don't know how to know the length of an array. Now I want to know the length of that array that we store on that previous, that I showed you in this console before. Then I go to Google Chrome, I go to search engine, I search how to know the length of an array. I open this first Stack Overflow. I'm going to open this, and I'm going to open this also and see what we are going to get out of them. So the first one says, let's go to Stack Overflow first. The first one says, what is the difference between the two? Only array size. Okay, this one is talking about array size, array dot length. I don't even understand what both of them are talking about. I can maybe hold on this one first, and let's go to another one. So let's say find array length in JavaScript. This seems very close to what we are looking for, right? You can click that one. Okay, get the length of every element in an array. Let's click this also. This seems very close to what we are looking for. Then we can go to Stack Overflow first. Said, okay, I want to get length of every element in an array. My code is var hello world. Now we know this one is what? A string, right? Like this is a string. Like you declare a variable, right? And you assign it a value of what? String, which is what? Hello world, right? And these, we might not know about them for now. Let's hold on to that. So he said, so I will have an array of, you can see he declared another variable, though he didn't put let the keyword at the front. Then he stored that. What is this now?
String.
These are what? This is an array.
What?
Right?
Yeah. This is
so,
very tiny.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Dami.
I can continue, right?
Yes, go on.
Okay, so the point here is this person is trying to like do something and he or she doesn't understand it. So, but I don't want to go into explain what the code is trying to do right now. So, but for example, he's running some operation on this string he declared, and that operation is returning this to that person. But he now said, how can I get length of each word in this array? But that's not what we are looking for anyway. what we are looking for is to determine the length of the array. We know this answer is not that related to us. We can skip this. Then we can go to another one. And this will sound a very silly question. How can we find the exact length of an array in JavaScript? Is that not what we are looking for?
Exactly.
That's exactly what we are. So, and say more precisely, I want to find the total position occurred in an array. I have a simple scenario, which I guess most of you might be familiar with. So you can see this is what? This is an array, right? And he declare a variable name called A and assign it an array, assign it the value of this array 1 to 3. He now said a.length, this will output what? 3. Now, if I give a 100 is going to be 100. We are coming to this short right away. And this, if I do a.length, the output is going to be, I want to get the exact size of the array, which is above in case, above case should be 4. So, but one thing you can find out right now is what? From his answer, what does a.length does for him right here? You can count the numbers of elements. How many numbers of elements do we have in this array? 3. And you see what he did was he did dot length on A. And remember the name of the variable, the name of that array is what is called A. And he did dot length on that array A. And he said the output is going to be what? 3. That might give us a very simple, like an hint that dot length, we use dot length to do what? To get the length of an array. That's a very good hint. And to try it out, you can also do something like, though his own question is quite similar to what we are looking for, but he is trying to like go a little bit deep. So, but let's go back to our console now and do something. We know we already declared an array called age of all students in class. Let's copy that array and now do similar thing to that called length, dot length, right? And do what?
Yes.
And press enter. What do we get?
5.
And what is in there? What the previous stuff? 5. So to be really sure we really understand what we are talking about, another thing we can do again is, remember when we saw his answer or his or her answer, we know he used dot length. One thing we can do again is do length. We can now do, we know that thing is called array, right? Array dot length in what? JavaScript. To read more about array dot length. Do you get it now?
Yeah.
So you can see that developer Mozilla I told you about the other time. You see it's coming up again. You can see W3 School is coming up again. So those two websites, they are more like your go-to places. So I can click the first one now, which, if you remember, I already opened, just that I haven't go back there. I have it, I think I should have it open somewhere. Yeah, I have it open before somewhere because I clicked it from one of the pages before. I think I clicked it from this page. Yeah, this. So, and that thing is also taking us back there also. Now, let's assume we only saw that guy using dot length. And now the next thing is to read up more about array dot length. For now, forget about this prototype. Let's ignore this prototype and assume it is array dot length. So now we can read more. It said the length property of an object, which is an instance of type array, set or returns the numbers of what?
Elements.
In what? In that array. So the value is an unsigned 32-bit integer that is always numerically greater than the highest index. Now, we have a very good hint of what length does now. Or what do you think? So, and we also have a way to play around. We can add one more thing here. We can do we can do bags. And we know we've changed this from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 now. And we can also do, and we expect this to give us what? To give us what now? Clothing dot length should give us what now? 5, right?
Yes, it should be 5.
Now, do you understand what I was just trying to let you understand? So if you need to understand anything, what you just have to do is go to Google and search about that thing you are trying to understand. Then you will see different stuff which you have to read, and that's where the programming things comes in. You can't, it's not possible to know everything. Never, it's not possible. Not possible. The only thing you need to know is how to like search for something and how to read and try something. And if you remember in our first class, I can go there anyway. I told you something like in this class, this is going to help you with what, let's say, it's going to help you with, help you to know what?
Problem solving.
And one of the good way to know how to solve problem is to be able to like do research on your own, able to like read, practice. That's one thing about it. And now going back now, let me say something. Now we know one very useful tool now. It's called dot length on an array. So, and we have more of them. You can see more of them here. And one thing about arrays, you can read something here. It's called a standard built-in object on array. Don't worry about this object now. Once you get to object, you understand what object is. It says standard built-in in an array, and we have two of them. It said we have of type properties, and we have of what? Of method. We have properties and method. Under properties, we have length is part of properties. And this on the scopables is also part of it. I've never heard of it before, and I've never used it. But this dot length, it's one of the two you use a lot going forward. And we have other methods which I've been explaining the other time. These are other methods you can use on an array. Let's say we are going to come back to use some of them right now. Let's say we are coming back to use this push pop shift on shift shortly in a couple of minutes before we go today. So let's say now we know how to get the length of an array, right? I'm going to close some of this tab now, and let us go back to, and if you also read this, if you read this W3 school also, save preferences, it's also going to explain the same thing to you. The length property set or return the numbers of elements in an array. Isn't that the same thing? So how do you use it? Array.length. Array.length is equals to number. So now let's now go back to our note now. Now we know how to get length of an array. If we do this, okay, let me write to get length of an array. We do what? We use property called length, right? And we do it this way, we would say array dots. I'm just trying to make these which returns the number of elements in that array, right? And if you do these dot length, and this is going to return 5. Do you get the explanation here now? So now we now have different operations we can do on array. But in our class today, we are going to look into 4 operations we can perform on arrays. First one we are going to look is add values to an array. So you remember this example I was trying to explain the other time? We have this class now, we have this, right? Name of students in our class, in class 1. So let's assume now another student joined the class. Can someone give me one more name?
The spelling of length is wrong.
Where?
Ages of all students.
Yeah.
Ages of all classes.
Thank you. Can someone give me a name of any student in this class?
Who is this?
Sorry?
Anna. I saw Anna.
Allen.
Anna.
Anna is Lena.
Okay, Anna. Okay, so you can use Anna also.
Okay.
Let's say another student called Anna joined the class, right?
Yeah.
And we are asked by the school to add Anna to class one list, right?
Yeah.
Joined, yeah. And we or we were hacked or whatever. And so that this is the task now. So how do we do this in array? So but before I'm going to explain this also, we have a very good method we can use to, for example, someone might want to ask, what if we want to get the value of 1? We want to get the first element from this array. What if we want to get the last element from this array? What if we want to get the third student from this class? What if we want to get the fifth student from this class? Right? Is that not possible? Or maybe I should, okay, yeah, I'm still coming back to that anyway. But let me start with this one, then we go back to that. We go back to insertion. I think I should have started with insertion anyway. So, but let's start with add now. Add. So we want to add Anna to this list now. And remember, this is our list, right? So the next question we might want to ask is, couple of questions we might want to ask ourselves is, first question is questions to ask ourselves. Is first, are we supposed to add the student to the end of the list? That is going to be the first question. To the end of the arrays or list, right? You can think, okay, are we supposed to add it to the end of this array? Which means if you're going to add Anna should come here, right? Or do you want to add it to the front? Or do you want to add it to the middle? So first thing is, how do we add? Let's say we want to add it to the last. How do we add it to the last? So there are several ways you can add it to the last. So, but there are several ways we can add it to the last. Let me see if I can just show you 2 ways. Like there are several, one thing about all this programming is there are several ways to do a single task, like a task. You can do it different means. The only thing you need to consider right now is how I'm going to do it, that I'm going to take less time to do it. I'm also going to consume less memory. That's things that needs to come to your mind right now. Like, how can I do it that's going to take less time and also going to take less memory? But in this class, we won't be talking more about memory or time at this point. So we only talk about how to get the task done. So for example, we want to add this student to the end of the list now. So how can we do that? So in JavaScript, I'm going to show you one way. I'm going to show you maybe 2 ways. Let me look at the time. Okay, we still have time. I'm going to show you 2 ways of how to do that now. First one is, remember what I said at first? I can easily tell you how to do it, but I also want you to do what? Learn how to start doing all these things right now. So you can still say how to add element. Is that not the element you're trying to add? Or how to add values to what? End of an array. Remember to put JavaScript. Right? What do we see here? We can now put in a new tab and also go down. You can also check these Stack Overflow. Remember I mentioned those 3 websites, Stack Overflow, and let's see, yeah, this one also. Now we can open any of them, or we can open any of these first, like we did the other time, or we can use another approach. He said, how do I append an object such as a string or a number to an array in JavaScript? This is not actually what we are looking for. This one is only trying to append. Does append means adding to the end of the list? If append means adding to the end of the list, then we are talking about the same thing. Then let's look at solution someone gave him. Someone said, use the array.prototype push method to do what? To append values to the end of the array. Do you see now we have a way to do it, which is what? Push. Forget about the prototype. Don't worry about the prototype at this point. You can see we have what now? Another method. Then how does push work? Then we can now see, you can try to look at through its code. Is it declared an array and assign its value, hi, hello, bonjour, and then it append new values to the array. He said array dot what? Push, right? Then he opened that, there is a bracket there, then he put the value he wants to add. So this might not be straightforward at this point. You can now go back to Google Chrome again and Google search engine again and do array.push in JavaScript. But because I have it open already, so I don't want to do that anymore. I can just come here and do array.push and read more about array.push. It said the .push method. You can see how they put it here. And the difference between these properties and method is properties. Can you see what I'm typing? The difference between properties and method is properties don't take parentheses. They don't take this. And method, let me put doesn't take this. Why method takes this? And what do we mean by, you can see when we declare length, when we use length the other time, we didn't have this, right? I can go back and show you. Where's our dot length? You can see we didn't put this there for length. And that's anytime you're, sorry?
That's true. We didn't put that stuff.
So, and the difference between, that's the difference between properties and method. If you are using a property, you don't put this. But if it is a method, you put that in there. Because you haven't talked about function at this point, you might still not understand why do we have to put it there and why we don't have to put it there. But maybe when we get to function, you understand it much better. So going back now. So the only thing I just want you to know is with property, you can see we said the operation we can perform divided into two. One is array, one is properties, and one is method. For properties, we only have two for arrays. And for method, we have a lot of them. You can see a lot of them. And if you notice, all of them, they end with that parentheses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that simply denotes a method or a function. We are coming back to that later on. So, and not to waste time, I think we only have like 4 minutes left. So, and so now this is push. Remember, it's going to be the name of the array dot push. Forget about the prototype, like I mentioned. It's going to be name of the array dot push, and you open that parentheses. And then how does it work? He said the push method adds one or more element to the end of an array and returns the new length of the array. What does returns means? We are coming back to return also when we talk about method, but don't worry about that for now. Then it says, now they're showing us a use case. He said they declare a variable, an array called animal, and they put these values inside of it, which is of type string, right? And it takes 3 values. And now they want to add a new value to it, which is called, you can see how do we add? They declare another variable called counts, right? This line is it's more like the same thing as this. Yeah, it's the same thing as this, right? They declare that variable, another variable called count. Then they now trying to assign the output of using this push, but not to complicate.
But they declared it using const.
Const, yeah, they use const, yeah. So, but the point here is now they want to add another value to what? To these animals, because cow is another animal. And how do they do it? They use that push method. They use that push method on the what? On the animals. And they always, if you want to add a method, if you are trying to use a method on like an array, you use dot. And how do we use dot? When we get to object, you understand the dot notation there. You understand it when we get to object. So they use dot, then the name of the method they want to use. And in this instance is what? Push, right? And they pass the value they want to pass to it. And one thing about all these methods are some of them, they take values inside of them, and some of them, they don't take values. Not all of them you have to pass values into. Because we haven't talked about method and function, you might still not understand it deep, but we are still coming down to that. Just for now, just take this as you see it right now, so we can proceed. So now you understand how do we...
He declared, the object is, the value he added is a string. I think that's why he put quote.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. So one thing I just want you to note here is we use push to add. Now let's go back to our code now. Let's say, what is the task again? Now we know to add, we can use what? Push method to add element to the end of the arrays. Now let's see that in action now. We know our array name, and remember the task is new student just joined our class and they want us to add the name of that student to our list, right? So what we have to do now is do dot array. This is the array, right? Dot what? Now dot push. then what we want to add to it. And this instance is what? Name of the student. And that student is of data type what?
String.
String. You get this now. Now let me try one more thing, then we'll now go to console and see that in action. Let's say, remember, we have two lists. We have list of name and what? List of age, right? So now let's say this list of age also, we already add the name to the list of name. We also need to do what? Update it in what? In our list of age. Now we need to add the age also. Now I want to add for the age. Now this is going to be what also? And what is the age of the new student?
12.
12. Do you get it now? So, and if we manage to do this,
this is string now.
The what?
It's string.
You mean 12?
Hmm?
12 is number, right? It's not string.
It is not, is number, but what I mean now is more than one.
No. String could be, number could be any, number could be.
String is combination of numbers, characters, symbols,
so the only thing you need to note is, provided you put it, if what determines string is this quote. Do you get it? I can write this string can tell us their name is like this. Provided you put it in quote, it's going to consider it a string. Do you get? And numbers are just 0 to like 9. Combination of 0 to 9. It could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be combination of all of them. Do you get it now?
It could also be negative.
It can be negative also.
Do you don't forget to move these symbols by her name so that we don't get confused.
So now I want to try it in console. So then I think we can stop there. I still don't know how we have to move. This is the 3rd week, right? And we haven't done anything, to be honest. I don't know what we can do at this point. Let's say now we want to add this to it now. Dot what again? Dot push, right? And it's going to be what? His name of the student. And yeah. So you can see it returns the new length of these. So I think I made a mistake. Yeah. Did this guys? Okay, let me do this. It's what I did is correct. The only mistake I made, you will see it now. You can see the mistake I made now.
As against the age.
So I added our name to the list, to the age list instead of the name list.
Okay.
And assuming we have time now, this will have been a perfect example to show how to delete something from an array. Anyway, and this can also tell us like we can add combination of different data type in an array. I think this is only JavaScript. In Java, this is not going to work. We can't add different data type in an array in Java, but in JavaScript it is allowed. So now let's say we want to add the age now to the age now, the student age to the age now. This is going to be dot push and what? Our age. And if we do this again, you can see the length has increased to 7 now. If you do this, it's going to be.
Yeah.
Do you get this now? Yeah. What about if these ages of this ages now, this list 5, 6, 8, 5, 6. What about if you put them in string? What would have happened?
So it's going to be string. Do you get? Then it turns to string. Something like this, right? Let's take this. Let's take this. And not to waste time, let's take maybe 2 of it, and let's change this to just to have this anyway. And I'll put some. This is what you are saying, right?
Yes.
Then it means all the values inside that array are what? String. It doesn't matter any value you store there. And if I also change this, let's say I want to add to this now. Now I want to add a value boolean there. Then if I also do this, you can see I have value of what there now.
Yes. Because why I said this is that our comfort question was that why was the names in string and the ages just like that with comma?
So you remember previously when we were talking about data type?
Yes.
And the way to write different data types in JavaScript or different programming languages, if we want to write string, what do we do with string? How do we write string?
In quote.
In quote.
Exactly. And that same approach comes here. Because the values we are trying to pass inside that array is what? Remember I said something about arrays. You can use them to store you can use them to store either combination of, you can use them to store, it can store, one good advantage of array and object, which we haven't talked about, is they can store different data type, including themselves.
Okay.
So for example, now let's come back now. Let's take this again. Let's take this previous array we have, right? And do push. And you remember this is an array, right?
Yeah.
Now we want to add array inside array. If we do this, that's one good advantage of array and object. We can store any other data type inside of them. You can see we have this. Now we store another array inside array.
Oh, so it took that one as one element.
Exactly.
Okay.
So because we haven't talked about how to access, now maybe that's going to be in our next class. Like, how do we get each individual element out of this array? That's the part where we call accessing. How can we how can we get different elements? Let's say we want to get this element at points. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of point 5, but we don't call it point. Let's say total length of this array is 8, right? So, and that is going to take us to another term called index. Like, how do we get the element at index, at a particular index? It could be index 0. An index starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. It starts from, so one thing about index is, remember we have length the other time, right? Another thing you need to note is called index. An index in most programming language, not in almost programming languages, length minus 1. So if you have a length of 8, our total index is going to be 7, which means, and first index is going to be 0, 1. You remember if it is length, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? If it's going to be index is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are coming back to that in our next slide, then we understand the index. So I don't want to keep everyone waiting. I think we can stop here. And if anyone has any question or any further clarification, you can wait, then we can tackle it together before you go.
Yeah, the question is, we have seen how to add an element at the end of an array. How about adding at the middle or at the beginning?
So that's the part of what we are going to talk about. Remember, I said something the other time. Because of the time, we can't cover that today. We said, are we supposed to add to the student to the end of the array list? That is one way. And we have different ways of adding to the end of the array list. Another question could be, are we supposed to add to the beginning of the array? That is going to take us to the next part of under this add. We are only dealing with add right now. Do you get?
And the middle.
And the middle. Do you get it now? So I think we can. I don't want to keep everyone.
You said we've not covered anything.
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't done anything.
Wow.
Yeah, we still have
all of this.
And you remember, we've only been trying to talk about all these syntax, talk about how to write stuff. The main work there is solving problem yourself. That's the main part. That's the only way you can get the best out of this class. It's not just about you coming to class and we showing you, like Shego and I showing you what to do, what stuff to do. But it's about you working alone, working together, solving code, writing code, like getting stuck, getting frustrated. That's the thing.
You want us to get
No, you can't. You can't.
frustrated.
If you ended up being in this profession, like if you ended up being a software developer or software engineer or blah blah blah, it's part of the thing you have to start getting used to. You get frustrated. For example, you might be trying to solve a problem. I think I need to stop recording so I don't keep saying this in the recording. Let me